My name is Aurora Hayes, single mother of triplet boys, once fired for being pregnant out of wedlock, abandoned by the man I loved, and left standing in the cold rain with nothing but a trembling hand and a heartbreaking no. But today, I stand on a stage as the CEO of a global education company that helps millions of children find their voice. Before I share this unbelievable journey, from a moldy basement to a statewide center for educational innovation, let me know where you're watching from in the comments, and hit that like button and subscribe if you've ever overcome adversity for your family. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. The elevator climbed 32 floors while my stomach sank to the basement. I pressed my palm against the cool metal wall, trying to steady myself. 7 months ago, Nathan Cross had traced that same palm with his fingertips, whispering promises in the dark. Now I stood outside his corner office at Crosslink Technologies, watching Seattle's skyline blur through rain-streaked windows. His assistant barely glanced up. "Ms. Hayes, he'll see you now." I pushed through the heavy glass door. Nathan sat behind a desk the size of my entire kitchen, his profile sharp against the city backdrop. When he turned, those green eyes that once made me dizzy now looked through me like I was furniture. "Aurora." He didn't stand. "You said it was urgent." My rehearsed speech evaporated. I clutched my purse strap and forced the words out. "I'm pregnant." Silence stretched between us like a tightrope. He leaned back in his leather chair, studying me the way he might examine a quarterly report. And? My voice cracked. "Nathan, it's yours, ours." He opened a drawer, pulled out a checkbook. The scratch of his pen on paper sounded like fingernails on glass. "How much do you need?" "I don't want your money." My hands trembled. "I wanted to tell you because you deserve to know. Because maybe what?" He tore off the check, slid it across the desk. "Maybe I'd leave everything I've built for a high school teacher I dated for a few months?" The number on the check blurred. $50,000. Like I was a problem to be solved, a line item in his budget. "I have a meeting with the mayor's office in 20 minutes, he continued, "about the city's new tech initiative. I'm announcing my engagement to Councilman Morrison's daughter next week. The timing works perfectly for both our careers." I stared at him, this stranger wearing Nathan's face. "You told me you loved me." "I tell my investors I love their ideas too." He pressed a button on his desk phone. "Security to the executive floor, please." 2 guards appeared before I could process what was happening. Nathan had already turned back to his computer screen. "Ms. Hayes was just leaving." One guard touched my elbow. "Ma'am?" I stood on shaking legs, leaving the check on his desk. "I thought you were different." "That's your problem, Aurora." He didn't look up. "You think too much." The guards flanked me to the elevator. Through the closing doors, I caught a glimpse of Nathan picking up his phone, already on to the next call, the next deal, the next lie. My hand found my belly, still flat, still secret. In the lobby, November rain slashed against the revolving doors. I'd taken 2 buses to get here, hoping to leave with something more than emptiness. The security guard held the door. "You okay, miss?" I stepped into the storm. I will be. But I wouldn't be. Not for a long time. I just didn't know yet how deep the water would get before I learned to swim. The rain soaked through my coat as I walked to the bus stop, past the coffee shop where Nathan first asked my name, past the bookstore where we spent Sunday afternoons. Every familiar corner now felt like foreign territory. My phone buzzed. A text from the principal at Garfield High. "Aurora, please call me immediately regarding your contract." I knew then that Nathan's reach extended beyond that pristine office. You don't become Seattle's youngest tech CEO without knowing how to eliminate problems. And I had just become a problem. The bus arrived, packed with evening commuters. I found a seat in the back, pressing my forehead against the cold window. A woman across from me bounced a toddler on her knee, making him giggle. The sound pierced something deep in my chest. I placed both hands on my stomach, making a promise to the life growing inside. "It's just us now, but we're going to be enough." The city lights blurred past, each one a life, a story, a dream. Somewhere in those lights, Nathan was shaking hands with politicians, building his empire on carefully constructed lies. And somewhere in those lights, I would build something too. I just didn't know what yet. The principal's office smelled like coffee and disappointment. Mrs. Chen sat across from me, her usually warm face carved with discomfort. The January rain drummed against the windows, marking time like a countdown. Aurora, you know I've always supported you. She folded her hands on the desk, but the parent board received several complaints about your situation. My situation? I kept my voice level, though my fingernails dug crescents into my palms. An unmarried teacher, visibly pregnant. She couldn't meet my eyes. Some parents feel it sends the wrong message to students. I teach creative writing, not moral philosophy. I know, I fought for you. She slid a paper across the desk. But the board voted. Your contract won't be renewed after spring semester. I stared at the letter, its corporate language dancing around the real reason. Nathan's mother sat on that board. Nathan's money funded their new computer lab. Nathan's influence reached into every corner of my life like poison. I have until May? I'm sorry, Aurora, I truly am. I stood carefully, my center of gravity already shifting. My students will miss you terribly. Her voice softened, as will I. That afternoon, I sat in the public hospital's waiting room, surrounded by coughing children and worried mothers. My name echoed off the walls when they finally called me. The ultrasound tech, a woman with kind eyes and cold hands, spread gel across my growing belly. Let's see what we have here. She moved the wand, frowning at the screen. What's wrong? My heart hammered. Nothing's wrong. She turned the monitor toward me. But you're having triplets. The world tilted. That's not possible. Very possible. She pointed to 3 distinct shapes on the screen. See, 3 heartbeats, 3 babies. You'll need specialized care, high-risk pregnancy. 3. The number echoed in my head as I walked out of the hospital. 3 babies, no job, no partner, no plan. My studio apartment in Capitol Hill cost half my teaching salary. I started searching cheaper neighborhoods that night, scrolling through listings in parts of Seattle I'd never considered. Rainier Valley, White Center, places where gunshots punctuated summer nights and bars covered windows. By February, I'd moved into a basement unit that smelled like mold and forgotten dreams. The ceiling leaked when it rained, which meant it leaked constantly. My new neighbor, Marcus, helped carry my boxes. He moved slowly, his dark hands gnarled with age and arthritis. You got family coming to help? He paused on the steps, catching his breath. No family. I adjusted a box of books, my back already aching. Just me. He studied me with eyes that had seen too much. That's a lot of alone for someone in your condition. I wanted to tell him that alone was better than betrayed. Instead, I smiled. I'm tougher than I look. I bet you are. He set down the box. I'm in 2B if you need anything. Used to teach too back in the day. Computer programming at the community college. That night, I lay on a mattress on the floor, listening to footsteps overhead and sirens in the distance. My hands curved around my belly, feeling the flutter of movement inside. 3 lives depending on me. The weight of it pressed me into the mattress. I found work at a bar near the university, serving beer to college kids who looked through me like I was invisible. My feet swelled, my back screamed. But tips were cash, and cash didn't ask questions about references or employment history. You shouldn't be on your feet so much, Jake, the bartender, said one night as I gripped the bar during a contraction. Braxton Hicks, I forced a smile. Practice runs. But they weren't practice runs. They were warnings. My body rebelling against the weight of 3, against the stress of survival. Dr. Patel at the public clinic put me on modified bed rest. These babies need more time, she said. Every week counts. So I spent March horizontal, watching rain streak my basement window. Marcus brought groceries, refusing payment. You remind me of my daughter, he said. Same stubborn streak. I started dreaming of water rising, of drowning in basements while 3 babies floated away. I'd wake, gasping, hands clutching my belly, whispering apologies to the lives I was already failing. But between the nightmares, something else grew. A fierce, primal love that surprised me with its violence. I would burn the world for these 3. I would rebuild myself from ash if I had to. I just had to survive long enough to try. The laptop screen glowed in my dark apartment, the only light besides the street lamp filtering through my garden-level window. April rain turned the glass into a waterfall. I shifted on the couch, trying to find a position where my back didn't scream and my swollen feet found relief. 3 resumes sent, 3 rejections. Nobody wanted to hire a teacher on bed rest, 7 months pregnant with triplets. I closed my eyes, remembering better days. Before Nathan, before this basement, before everything fell apart. In grad school, I'd started building something, an AI writing assistant designed to help ESL students find their voice. I'd called it LitSeed, a small program that could analyze writing patterns and suggest improvements while maintaining each student's unique style. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. The code was still saved in my cloud storage, abandoned when teaching became my whole world. Python def analyze voice text. Extract linguistic patterns unique to writer. Preserve cultural expressions while improving clarity. The logic flowed back slowly, like remembering a language I'd once spoken fluently. Marcus had mentioned he still had programming books. Maybe. A knock interrupted my thoughts. I struggled to standing, waddling to the door. Mia, my former student, stood in the rain, 16 years old and soaking wet. What are you doing here? Ms. Hayes, I'm sorry. Tears mixed with raindrops on her face. I heard you weren't teaching anymore. I had to find you. I pulled her inside, wrapping her in my only clean towel. How did you even— Your forwarding address was in the school system. She shivered. I hacked it. I'm sorry. I needed to tell you something. We sat on my second-hand couch, the springs creaking under our combined weight. Mia clutched a folder to her chest. Remember my essay about feeling invisible? She asked. The one where you wrote that comment about finding my voice? I remembered. She'd been failing English, writing stilted paragraphs that sounded like Google Translate. Then something clicked. Her writing bloomed, still imperfect, but alive with personality. You saved my life. She opened the folder, revealing acceptance letters. University of Washington, Seattle U, full scholarships. My counselor said my essays were the strongest she'd ever seen. Mia, that was all you see— No, she grabbed my hand. You taught me that broken English could still carry truth, that my Korean grandmother's sayings belonged on the page next to Shakespeare. You made me believe my voice mattered. After she left, I stared at the acceptance letters she'd insisted on showing me. Each one a future opening. A voice found. I opened my laptop again, this time with purpose. If I could help one student find her voice, why not 1,000? 10,000? The code came back like muscle memory. Marcus, true to his word, had boxes of programming books. He sat with me some evenings, reviewing logic problems while my feet soaked in Epsom salts. This natural language processing, he said, adjusting his glasses. It's sophisticated. You build this yourself? Started it in grad school, never finished. Why not? I rubbed my belly, feeling an elbow or knee push back. Life happened. Life's still happening. He pointed to a function. This algorithm here, it's identifying emotional resonance and word choice. That's doctoral level work. By May, I had a working prototype. It wasn't pretty, basic interface, limited functionality, but it worked. Feed it student writing, and it identified patterns, suggested improvements while preserving voice, offered culturally sensitive alternatives. I tested it on Mia's old essays, watching the AI recognize her code switching between formal English and Korean-influenced structures. Instead of correcting her grandmother's proverbs, it helped her integrate them more smoothly. My unemployment checks barely covered rent. The bar couldn't take me back. I could barely walk, let alone carry trays. But every night, after Marcus went home and the rain settled into its Seattle rhythm, I coded. 3 lives kicked inside me while I built something from nothing. Some nights, I talked to them, explaining functions and loops like bedtime stories. This is a recursive function, I whispered, tracing the movement under my skin. It calls itself until it finds the answer. Like us, we'll keep trying until we find our way. The contraction started again in late May, stronger this time. Dr. Patel's face was grim during my checkup. 30 weeks, she said. We need to get you to 32, at least, hospital bed rest. I can't afford— Aurora. Her hand covered mine. Your cervix is shortening. Those babies are coming whether you can afford it or not. That night, I uploaded LitSeed's code to GitHub, just in case. Just so something of mine would survive. Whatever happened next, The NICU machine sang a electronic lullaby, beeps and whirs marking each breath my babies fought to take. 32 weeks. We'd made it to 32 weeks before my body surrendered to the inevitable. Levi came first, screaming despite his tiny lungs. Then Jude, silent but steady. Finally, Beau, who forgot to breathe until the nurses reminded him with urgent hands and oxygen masks. He's struggling, Dr. Martinez explained, her scrub still bloody from the emergency C-section. His lungs need more support. We've intubated him. I couldn't move. The spinal block still held me prisoner in my bed. Can I see them? Soon. Rest now. But rest was impossible. Somewhere beyond these recovery room walls, 3 boys who'd shared my body now fought alone in plastic wombs. The morphine made everything soft around the edges, except the sharp terror that cut through everything. Marcus arrived the next morning, carrying coffee and purpose. They wouldn't let me claim to be family, he said, settling into the visitor's chair. So I lied, said I was their grandfather. Marcus, hush, you need someone, and I'm old enough to be stubborn about it. He pulled out his ancient laptop. Now, I've been thinking about your program. The authentication system needs work. For 3 days, we existed in that strange NICU twilight. I pumped breast milk every 3 hours, labeled bottles with 3 names I'd chosen during those basement nights. Levi for the logical one who kicked in patterns, Jude for the one who responded to music, Beau for the fighter who'd claimed the most space. The nurses taught me to read the monitors, to understand oxygen saturation and breathing rates. Levi stabilized first, graduating from CPAP to nasal cannula. Jude followed, steady as always. But Beau's lungs collapsed twice. He's got the fighting spirit, Nancy, the night nurse, told me as we watched his tiny chest rise and fall. Sometimes the fighters make it harder on themselves. I held Levi first, his impossibly small weight nestled against my chest. 2 pounds, 14 ounces of possibility. His eyes, still fused mostly shut, fluttered at my voice. Hey, baby boy, I whispered. I'm your mama, the one with the broken code and basement apartment. But I'm going to fix that. For you. Days blurred into nights. I slept in the pumping room, showered in the family lounge, lived on cafeteria sandwiches and Marcus's kindness. He brought my laptop, helped me refine Litseed between feedings. You should submit this somewhere, he said one afternoon while I held Jude, finally stable enough for kangaroo care. There's a competition, Washington State Innovation Challenge, $100,000 prize. I can't even afford parking here, which is why you need to try. He pulled up the website. Deadline's in 2 weeks. I'll help with the application. Beau's breathing tube came out on day 10. I was holding Levi when they extubated him, watching through the isolette as my smallest boy took his first unassisted breaths. The nurses cheered. I sobbed into Levi's knit cap, overwhelmed by gratitude so fierce it felt like drowning. That night, I sat between 3 isolettes, working on the competition application. The NICU's overnight rhythm, soft alarms, whispered conversations, the occasional crisis in another bay, became my background music. Litseed, democratizing voice in digital spaces, I typed. An AI-powered writing assistant that preserves cultural and individual expression while improving technical proficiency. Beau's oxygen dipped. I stood, placing my hand on his isolette. Come on, sweet boy. You've got this. The levels stabilized. I sat back down, adding another line. Developed by a single mother of triplets because every voice deserves to be heard, especially the ones that don't fit standard patterns. Marcus reviewed my code, suggesting optimizations. The nurses let me present my practice pitch to them during the 3 a.m. calm. It's brilliant, Nancy said. My grandson struggles with writing. He thinks in Tagalog but has to write in English. This could help him. 2 weeks passed. 3 weeks. The boys gained weight in grams, celebrated like pounds. Levi hit 3 pounds first, his analytical nature apparently extending to efficient feeding. Jude followed, steady as always. Beau fought for every ounce but finally crossed the same threshold. The morning I submitted the competition application, all 3 boys were breathing room air. No tubes, no CPAP, just 3 tiny boys learning to be in the world. We're going to make it, I whispered to them during their synchronized feeding time. A rare miracle when all three were awake and hungry together. I don't know how, but we're going to make it. Marcus smiled from the doorway, his programming books under one arm, hope under the other. Never doubted it for a second. Neither of us mentioned that hope was all we had. Sometimes that's enough to start with. The email arrived while I was changing Beau's diaper in a gas station bathroom. 3 months old, finally home, and we were driving to the Washington State Innovation Challenge finals in my ancient Honda that coughed like a lifetime smoker. Congratulations, you've been selected as a top 10 finalist. I read it 3 times before it sank in. Jude started crying from his car seat. Levi joined in solidarity. By the time I'd soothed them and changed 2 more diapers, we were running late. The competition venue, a gleaming conference center in downtown Seattle, might as well have been on Mars. Tech executives in $1,000 suits mingled with venture capitalists who spoke in acronyms. I pushed a secondhand triple stroller through the crowd, formula stains on my only blazer, looking for registration. Aurora Hayes? A volunteer's eyes widened at the stroller. You're presenting in the main auditorium in 20 minutes. No time to find childcare, no time to panic. I'd practiced my pitch at 3 a.m. feedings, refined it during tummy time, perfected it while walking 3 screaming babies around the block. This was just another performance, with a slightly larger audience. The auditorium held 500 people. I parked the stroller at the edge of the stage, visible but out of the way. Levi slept peacefully. Jude studied the lights with serious eyes. Beau, of course, chose that moment to demand attention. I'm sorry, I said into the microphone, lifting him out. My childcare fell through. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. I bounced Beau against my shoulder, found my rhythm, and began. 2 years ago, my student Mia nearly dropped out of school. Her English wasn't broken. It was building bridges between Korean and English, creating something new. But our education system only saw errors. I clicked through my slides one-handed, Beau now fascinated by the laser pointer. Litseed recognizes that intelligence speaks many languages. It doesn't erase accent or culture. It amplifies voice while improving clarity. The demo worked flawlessly. I showed Mia's essay, how Litseed identified her code-switching patterns, suggested improvements that honored both languages. The audience leaned forward. Every child deserves to be heard, I concluded as Jude began to fuss. Even if they speak differently. Even if their mother brings them to pitch competitions. Silence. Then applause that startled all 3 boys into crying. I laughed, gathering them against me, no longer caring about professionalism. This was my life. Messy, complicated, real. 3rd place goes to... I held my breath, boys balanced on my lap in the waiting area. 2nd place? Beau grabbed my finger, squeezing with surprising strength. And our grand prize winner receiving $100,000 in funding and entrance to our accelerator program, Litseed by Aurora Hayes. The next months blurred together in a haze of code reviews and 2 a.m. feedings. The accelerator provided office space, but I worked mostly from home, boys napping in bouncy seats while I debugged code. Marcus became our unofficial CTO, refusing any title that required actual payment. Pay me when you're profitable, he insisted, teaching Levi to grasp Rattle while reviewing server architecture. The challenge wasn't just technical. Other accelerator companies had teams, funding, connections. I had formula-stained shirts and a triple stroller that barely fit through doors. Investor meetings happened between nap schedules. I pitched to VCs while breast pumping in bathroom stalls. Your burn rate projections, one investor said, frowning at my financials. Include daycare for triplets, I replied. Non-negotiable. Most walked away. But Sarah Chen from Cascade Ventures stayed. I was a single mom, too, she said quietly. Not triplets, but I remember. Send me your full deck. By December, the boys were crawling. My apartment looked like a baby gear explosion. Code covered every wall. Not to seem startup cool, but because I needed to see it while keeping 3 mobile infants from eating electrical cords. Christmas Eve, I sat on the floor, boys finally asleep, staring at our beta user numbers. 3,000 teachers had signed up. Messages poured in, stories of students finding their voices, of essays that sang with personality instead of drowning in corrections. We did it. I whispered to the sleeping forms around me. We actually did it. But success felt fragile, built on no sleep and Marcus's generosity and Sarah Chen's single check that would run out in 6 months. I needed more funding, more support, more hours in the day. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, Seattle area code. Ms. Hayes, this is Patricia Cross, Nathan's stepmother. I was at the competition. We need to talk about your boys. The room suddenly felt very cold. 3 babies very vulnerable, and success very far away. Patricia Cross sat in my cramped living room like a peacock in a pigeon coop. Perfectly styled silver hair, designer suit, manicured nails that had never seen formula stains. The boys, now 2 years old, built block towers at our feet, blissfully unaware of the tension. They look just like him at that age, she said, watching Levi methodically sort blocks by size. Nathan's analytical mind. What do you want? I kept my voice steady, though my hands trembled around my coffee mug. I saw you present at the competition. I've been following Litseed's progress. She pulled out an iPad, showing me an article about Nathan. My stepson's company is under SEC investigation. AI systems that fabricated data, inflated user numbers. His house of cards is collapsing. I said nothing. Karma wasn't my concern anymore. He wants to meet them. She set down the iPad. His lawyers think Family Man optics might help his case. Absolutely not. Bo toddled over, offering her a slobbery block. She took it with surprising gentleness. I don't blame you, but Aurora, he'll pursue legal channels if you refuse. He has resources. He has nothing. I stood, anger finally breaking through. No moral ground, no legal standing, no right to these boys he told me to abort. Mama mad? Jude looked up, his emotional intelligence already sharp at 2. Mama's fine, baby. I softened my voice, sitting back down. Just talking. Patricia watched this exchange with something like pain in her eyes. I never had children. Nathan was already 16 when I married his father, already cold, but these 3... She was quiet for a moment, then pulled out a check. This isn't from Nathan, it's from me. An investment in Litseed. $200,000. Enough to hire developers, scale properly, give my boys stability. What's the catch? Let him meet them. Once, supervised. Let him see what he threw away. Her voice hardened. Then let him live with it. I stared at the check. Pride tasted bitter against the reality of our empty refrigerator. The shut-off notice from the electric company, the boys' need for new shoes. One meeting, I said finally. Here, with witnesses. Nathan arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, diminished. The Golden Boy CEO now wore defeat in the slump of his shoulders, the gray creeping through his perfect hair. He stood in my doorway like a stranger, which he was. Aurora, they're inside. I didn't move aside. Remember their names? He flushed. Patricia told me, Levi, Jude, Bo. Bo almost died. I stepped back to let him pass. His lungs collapsed twice, but you wouldn't know that. The boys were painting at their little table, finger paints everywhere, pure chaos. They looked up at the stranger, curious but unafraid. My brave boys. Hi, Nathan said awkwardly. Hi. Bo, always the boldest, waved a paint-covered hand. You paint? Nathan looked at me helplessly. I shrugged. You wanted this, I didn't say. He sat carefully. Designer jeans be damned. Levi offered him a brush with the same methodical precision he applied to everything. Jude watched, assessing, then pushed a paper toward him. For 20 minutes, they painted. Nathan tried to make conversation, but 2-year-olds don't care about small talk. They cared that he used too much blue, that he painted outside the lines, that he didn't know the dinosaur song. Mama does it better, Jude announced, the final verdict. When Nathan left, his expensive shirt covered in tiny handprints, he paused at the door. Aurora, Don't. I held up my hand. Just don't. He nodded, defeated. The investigation. I'll probably go to prison. Good. I'm sorry. The words fell between us, too small for the damage done. They're perfect. They are, no thanks to you. After he left, I bathed 3 paint-covered boys, made dinner from whatever I could find, read the dinosaur book 6 times. Normal life, the kind Nathan would never know. That night, I deposited Patricia's check and hired 2 developers. Litseed's waiting list had grown to 50,000. School districts were calling. The boys needed a father, but they had something better. A future their mother was building with her bare hands. "Why sad, Mama?" Bo asked during bedtime, always the one who sensed emotions. "Not sad, baby, proud." "Of us?" "Always of you." I kissed 3 foreheads, tucked 3 blankets. "Always, always of you." Nathan's shadow had passed over our life one last time. Now we stepped back into the light, where we belonged. The Washington State Convention Center glowed against the Seattle skyline. December rain turning the streets into rivers of reflected light. 7 years had passed since I'd stood on a similar stage with babies in a stroller. Tonight, those babies were 7-year-old boys in matching bow ties, fidgeting in the front row. "Mom, my tie's choking me," Bo stage whispered, loud enough for the first 3 rows to hear. Marcus, sitting beside them in his best suit, adjusted the tie with practiced grandfather hands. He'd never accepted the CTO title, but had become everything else: mentor, family, the boys' Grandpa M. I smoothed my dress, real silk this time, bought with my own money, and watched the auditorium fill. Education ministers, tech leaders, teachers from across the state. My former principal, Mrs. Chen, caught my eye and smiled. Even Mia was here, now a graduate student. Her success story featured in our presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer began, "please welcome our keynote speakers. First, addressing the state's new AI education initiative, Crosslink Technologies interim CEO, Nathan Cross." My blood froze. I hadn't known. Patricia hadn't warned me. He walked on stage different. Prison had carved away his golden edges, left something raw. 2 years served, early release, somehow still speaking at education conferences. The world's forgiveness for fallen men never ceased to amaze me. He spoke about redemption, about second chances, about building ethical AI. The audience ate it up. I wanted to vomit. "And now," the announcer continued, "Aurora Hayes, founder and CEO of Litseed, our state's official adaptive learning partner." I stood on legs that remembered how to be strong. The boys waved enthusiastically. Levi gave me a thumbs up. Jude blew a kiss. Bo shouted, "That's our mom." The audience laughed. I found my smile, real despite Nathan's presence. 7 years ago, I began, I was fired for being pregnant and unmarried. Tonight, I stand here because those babies taught me that creation comes in many forms. I clicked to my first slide. Not statistics, but stories. Children's faces, their words, their voices, finally heard. Litseed doesn't fix broken English. It celebrates multilingual minds. We've helped 400,000 students find their voices in 17 languages across 20 countries. The presentation flowed like water. Demonstration videos, teacher testimonials, students reading essays that sang with personality. I showed Bo's latest story. His dyslexia accommodated, but his creativity unleashed. Jude's art descriptions, poetic despite his processing differences. Levi's logical arguments, structured by the same AI his mother built. "Every child has a voice," I said, finding Nathan's eyes in the stage lights. "Some just need help clearing their throat. Litseed ensures no voice goes unheard because it doesn't fit the standard pattern." I paused, letting the weight settle. 7 years ago, someone told me I wasn't special enough for their world, so I built my own. A world where every child is special, where every voice matters, where single mothers can revolutionize education while raising triplets. The audience rose before I finished, a standing ovation that crashed over me like a wave. The boys broke free from Marcus, racing on stage to hug my legs. I lifted Bo, steady despite his weight, while Levi and Jude pressed against my sides. "Did we do good, Mom?" Bo whispered. "You did perfect, baby." Nathan had to follow my presentation. His prepared remarks crumbled. He stumbled through corporate speak about ethical AI while the ghost of what he'd thrown away stood 10 feet away, surrounded by the sons he'd never know. During the reception, he approached while I talked with the education secretary. "Excuse me," he said quietly. "Aurora, could we—" "No," I didn't turn. "We couldn't. The boys look happy, loved, successful." I finally faced him. "None of which involves you." The education secretary looked between us, sensing drama. I smiled professionally. Secretary Johnson, let me introduce you to my head of development. Marcus Washington, the real genius behind our algorithms. Marcus appeared, smooth as ever, drawing the secretary away. Nathan stood alone in a crowded room, watching his sons charm reporters with their identical grins and different personalities. They don't know, he said quietly. They know they're loved. That's enough. I walked away, toward my boys, toward our future. Behind me, Nathan's footsteps faded into the party noise. Some shadows, I'd learned, only have power if you let them follow you. Mom, Jude called. The reporter wants to know about our names. I gathered them close, my 3 miracles, and told our story again. The right one this time. The true one. Ours, 10 years later. The morning sun streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows of the building I once got thrown out of. 17-year-old Levi adjusted the projector while his brothers flanked the presentation screen. Today, we weren't visitors to Nathan Cross's former kingdom. We owned it. Ready, Mom? Jude's artistic eye had designed our slides. Clean, powerful, emotionally resonant. Always ready with you 3? Bo, our spokesman, despite his ongoing battle with anxiety, stepped to the podium. He'd grown tall like Nathan, but carried himself with Marcus's quiet dignity. The auditorium filled with educators, investors, and press from around the world. I'm Bo Hayes, he began, his voice steady despite the tremor I knew he felt. When I was 7, I asked my mom why we existed if our father didn't want us. Today, I speak for every kid who's ever felt unwanted, unheard, or unworthy. He clicked to the first slide, a photo of our old basement apartment. Litseed 5.0 isn't just software. It's proof that the best innovations come from the hardest places. Levi took over, explaining the technical architecture he'd helped design. At 17, he'd already been accepted to MIT, his systematic mind perfect for expanding our AI's capabilities. He showed how the new version identified learning differences before they became disabilities, how it adapted to neurodivergent minds like his own. Jude presented the emotional intelligence modules, his contribution. The AI now recognized emotional undertones in writing, helping students express feelings they couldn't name. His slides showed before and after essays from kids with trauma, autism, ADHD, voices finally free. We built this, Jude said simply, because we needed it. Mom always says the best solutions come from lived experience. I took the stage for the business portion, but my boys stayed close. 10 years of Litseed, 5 million students, partnerships with UNESCO, integration into public schools worldwide. The numbers felt surreal. We're announcing our latest initiative today, I said. The Marcus Washington Memorial Fund will provide free Litseed access to any school serving low-income communities. The boys struggled with emotion. Marcus had passed 2 years ago, peacefully, surrounded by the grandsons he'd chosen. His final code commit had been elegant, like him. In the 3rd row, an older man sat alone. Nathan, invited by the boys despite my reservations. Prison and disgrace had aged him into someone almost pitiable. He watched his sons with naked longing, seeing himself in their faces but none of his choices in their hearts. One more announcement. Bo returned to the podium. Mom doesn't know this part. I froze. My boys exchanged grins. Levi's calculated, Jude's mischievous, Bo's brave. We've been taking business classes, Levi explained, studying corporate structures and hostile takeovers. Specifically, Jude added, how to buy distressed assets from bankrupt companies. Bo pulled out documents. Mom, you taught us to build rather than tear down, but some things need to be rebuilt from scratch. So we bought this building, the one you got thrown out of 17 years ago. My hands flew to my mouth. The boys surrounded me, no longer little, but still mine. We're turning it into the Aurora Hayes Center for Educational Innovation, Bo continued. Free workspace for education startups. Free coding classes for single parents. Free everything for people starting from nothing. With a really good daycare, Levi added practically. And art therapy rooms, Jude chimed in. And no security guards who throw out pregnant women, Bo finished. The room erupted. I ugly cried into my boys' shoulders while cameras clicked and the future crystallized into something impossible made real. During the reception, Nathan approached. The boys stiffened but didn't retreat. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. All of you. We know, Bo replied with more grace than I could have managed. But that doesn't change anything. I know, Nathan echoed. I just wanted to say it. Once. He left before the party ended. A ghost finally exorcised. The boys and I stood in the lobby where I'd once stumbled into the rain, pregnant and discarded. You okay, Mom? Jude asked. I looked at my sons. Brilliant, kind, everything Nathan could never be. Behind them, their names were already being etched into the building directory. Not Cross. Hayes. The name I built, they carried, we shared. I'm perfect, I said. We all are. Outside, Seattle rain started falling, but inside our building, our future, everything was light.